back on Pick Apart the Passion podcast with Chris Lytle. Had technical difficulties. I don't really even know what happened, man. You said you were in here talking to nobody, and I apparently got completely kicked out of my own Zoom meeting. I don't even know, but basically, what we were talking about was, or what I want to know is, what kind of training scheduling goes into like a regular day routine? Like what
I,
like
I mean, that totally depends on what time of a year it was. If it was like fight camp time, like I had a fight coming up, 6 weeks out, things change. 6 weeks out is when you really have to amp it up. And that's when, the diet has to start, not eating any kind of fattening foods, no desserts, no alcohol, 0 drops of alcohol ever 6 weeks out. Started that day. No fast foods, nothing, eating clean. I was always drinking a gallon of water. That's when that would start. And then, but the training would be, something in the morning to be some like a grueling cardio. I'd go to a place called Indiana Acceleration Indiana, where it's like treadmill sprints with people like holding these rubber band type things on you, or plyometric workout with just like an hour of just straight, putting a thing up to like 30-degree incline, doing sprints or hopping over things with, these rubber band things, just an intense cardio, endurance thing. And then get done with that, go home and rest up and eat. And then come into the gym at night and do basically just hard sparring, basically, or just interval training with you being the guy in the middle, going with people like a new fresh body on you every 1 minute to 2 minutes, and you being the man in the middle, just kind of beating you up straight. I do that usually 2 days in a row, and then on the third day I'd go to the firehouse. And when I'd go to the firehouse, that would consist of me doing like a weightlifting routine that was all endurance based at that point. 80 reps with like a lighter weight of different exercises, and adding weight and doing it just continually, like with a 1 minute break, and then like sprints, doing like a treadmill sprints at the firehouse, trying to do my cardio, and then the next day I'd go back to my other routine. 2 days of just getting beat up every day. It was always funny because when I would do that the first day, you go to the morning, you go to your plyometric workout or whatever, and you're fine. And you go to the gym and you're fine. And then the next day you go do your treadmill sprints. And by the second day a row of that, I'd go to the gym, and it's not a good day at the gym. I'm usually starting to get beat by people that I should normally be beaten, but it's just like my body just be worn down, just going that intense for like 2 days in a row, especially the older I got, it was just tough. So then, like the firehouse day where I would do those sprints on my wheellift, and that was like my rest day. And then I'd come back ready to go, and I'd be ready to go again. And I'd do good the first day at the gym, and the second day I wouldn't do good because I just wore out. So I usually do that. And Sunday I'd usually kind of rest and just maybe do a light jog or something, hang out with the family a little bit. But I mean, unless I was working at the firehouse on that Sunday, then I do my sprints and all that stuff. But it was pretty much that. Now, on my off days, I'd be at the gym probably a little bit longer, but it wasn't as intense. You're just going in there, rolling, working on that's when you get better, when you work on all the flaws and the problems you have. Mm-hmm. You go in there, you roll with a lot of people, you go over and you learn technique. The time to learn technique is not in a fight camp. My 6-week camp was never that time. It's just a time to get in shape and get ready for that fight. Luckily, I never stayed away from the gym. I was always in shape. I know a lot of guys who have to have like a 9-week camp because they don't come in, they're not ready for the fight 6 weeks out. So they have to get the first couple, 3-4 weeks is getting in shape. I was like, I never want to do that. So I was always at the gym. It was just how intense was I going to work? You can be there for 3 hours if you're not working as intense. If you're going hard as you can't do that 3 hours, man. People, I'm in the gym 8 hours. You ain't working hard. That's just not reality. I mean, you're teaching classes, you're doing something, you can't go hard and not get hurt. If you're older, no. If you're 20, maybe you could. I don't know.
Yeah, and you mentioned some people do you like the 9-week out camps or whatever, but I mean, yeah, I would always see you on a lot of the fight cards, man, because I followed UFC pretty early, and you were there pretty early, what was it, the Matt Serra fight in the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
I mean, you were that Ultimate Fighter 4. So
yeah,
I mean, you were there pretty early.
I mean, the Ultimate Fighter 4 was called the comeback because those were all people who had already been in the UFC. By that time, I'd already fought in the UFC 6 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I fought in UFC first time in 2000. I fought in there before Zuffa was in there. I mean, I was in there when SEG owned it. And then I fought it again UFC 45 and like the 10-year anniversary. So, I mean, in 2003, I fought Robbie Lawless. I mean, I've been around there for not since the beginning, but I was pretty early into it.
Yeah. And 2011, your last fight, Dan Hardy, that was actually in my hometown in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to make it to that,
Ooh.
but I do know that that was that's a way to go out. Submission of the night. Uh, I mean, yeah, man.
I loved
And
it.
and did you know at that time, like, was that? I mean, did you know that leading up to that was going to be the end of
That's
that
what,
journey for you, or?
oh yeah. I mean, if you watch the thing like right before at the weigh-ins, I was the main event. I walked up to Dana White and I handed him a letter, and everybody's like, "What the hell's that?" I gave him a letter at the weigh-ins, an envelope, and then I walked off and weighed in, and that was my resignation. My retirement letter told him I was retiring, and a little background on that was I'd been, like I told you, I've been fighting forever, since '98. It'd been like 13 years, and I have 4 kids, and I just thing I realized is, it was super necessary for me to do early, 4 kids, and I'm the only one working, as a fireman, doesn't make that kind of money to support a family like that and do what you want to do. I mean, you can get by with that, but I was like, man, I want more for my kids. So I was fighting just to make extra money. And then it turned into making good money when you win all those bonuses. And, but you start realizing your kids are getting older. I remember I was just never around. I
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about, I'm not missing the gym. So I remember at one point, like right before that, I'd won like 4 in a row, and I hurt my knee and I had knee surgery, but I didn't take off from the fight, having like a month later, and I didn't really rehab my knee. So I lost that fight and I was bummed. I was like, man, I'm going to take a month off and rehab my knee, actually get it better so I can fight again. And as I did that, I started going, like, I was off. So I went to my daughter's gymnastics meet, my son's basketball game, and I just really started to realize, like, to my kids, I got like a freshman in high school and a daughter in 8th grade, and I started really feeling like a sense of guilt, And the first time ever when they called me to say, okay, we want you to fight Dan Hardy in the main event, I was like all excited. I started to go to the gym that day, and I was like, first day I felt real guilt ever, about going to the gym. I was like, man, I shouldn't be here. I should be doing my gymnastics meet or whatever. And I was like, I felt guilty. And I decided, I was like, came home, talked to the wife, and I was like, this is it, I'm done, and we talked about it. I was like, but that gave me the freedom to go out there and train hard every day. I was like, I'm gonna win this last fight. Now I have an end goal, so I got to win this fight. I can't go out there and lose my last fight. I know this is my last fight,
Mhm.
and so I was able to go out there. That's why it's so meaningful to me. I handed in my resignation letter, said thank you very much for all you've done for me and the family. Put it all out there. You don't know if you're gonna win that last fight, And then it was a good. I mean, Dan Hardy is a tough guy, and I was able to get the fight of the night and the sub of the night, and I was actually able to win a Harley from Harley Davidson. Man, it was a great night. You know what I mean? I loved
Oh
it. It was
yeah.
fun. Almost died on it about 5 years ago, but it was all right.
Oh man. Well, blessings, and glad that didn't happen.
They tried, it didn't work.
So yeah, I definitely think that that was the thing I was going to ask is the support of your family in your fight career was
Mhm.
cuz we all see those movies like Southpaw or something where like the young daughter watches her dad fighting and how it's actually hard for her to see it, although she's still supportive of it. Did things like that happen? Was it hard for your kids, or were you not kids, or were your kids not allowed to watch the fights?
I
Was it?
mean, they were, but I mean, I didn't really have many of them. They were definitely the last one. They got in the cage with me afterwards. They didn't let them come in. Right, I didn't even see them coming in, but after I won, they brought them in. It was awesome. But I remember one time I watched that boxing show that was I don't know if you remember. I think it was called The Contender. Had Sugar Ray Leonard and Sylvester Stallone
Mm,
on it,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
it was, I can't remember. It's probably 2005 or so, and they had all the kids show up in there, and people were getting knocked out, and the kids are crying. I was like, man, this is horrible, dude. I mean, you don't. politicize that, not politicize the right word, publicize. You don't put it on there for the kids to be on there and make that the drama. I didn't like that. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to have my kids be ringside when I fight. I mean, they were there at a couple of my fights, but not many. You know, I did not mind fighting out of town. I loved it. I was like, man, put me overseas, man. You know, I don't care. First of all, there's less pressure. And second of all, you know, you don't have 50 people going, can I get tickets? Can I get tickets? That's a lot easier. You don't want any distractions and the headaches. I'm just like, man, people that happen, I go to Vegas and fight, not a big deal. I get it. Just, I want to stay away from my body until after the fight. When you fight at home, people think that's a great thing. You got all the hometown people. You got the hometown events. Yeah. But you got a lot of headaches to deal with, man. You got 50,000 people are asking for wanting to get pictures with you, wanting to get tickets, wanting to talk to you. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. You know what I mean? So I never minded that. And I didn't want my family being around too much because, you know, you don't want anything in your head besides what the job at hand is, you know, that you have to deal with that. And luckily I had a great support cast. I had, a great wife and great kids and great, family, mother, father, step parents, in-laws, all kinds of stuff. And everybody's willing to help out as that needed. But man, when they say stuff like it takes a village, to raise kids, I mean, it really helped out. The more people you can do in there, the better. Because I mean, like I said, we have my parents were divorced when I was a kid. My wife's were when we were both real young. So, we got 4 sets of grandparents. It was very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, doing a different topic, different idea behind it, but I mean, doing music sometimes. And I mean, I tour a lot. So yeah, there's definitely times where I definitely I think I feel the guilt with my daughter sometimes of not being um, there all the time. The music, going out and doing things. So I definitely feel what you were saying with that the sense of guilt towards the end of your
Yeah, but
um,
it's a tough thing because there's this real fine line you walk, and people don't realize that, I think. But there's this, like, you want to be successful for your kids to provide
mhm,
for them.
mhm,
However, working too much, you go too far. You're not around them enough. Now, maybe it's just I wish I was smarter about it and I could have been more successful financially, where I didn't have to just grind it all the time. But when I first started, that wasn't the way it was. But I mean, it's a very fine line. Do you work too much to give them more? But then do they even need all that you give them, or do you want to be around them more? I mean, and it's impossible to really walk that fine line perfectly. I think sometimes you're
yeah,
either going to work too much, or sometimes you're going to be at home too much and not provide for them. And did I do the right thing? Sometimes not. And I think everybody has to face that. It sounds like that's where you go to music or acting, or just working at a factory or fighting UFC. All that stuff has that same line you're talking
yeah,
about, and it's tough to know what it is. And at some point, you're going to go too far one way. You just got to try and navigate that best you can, man. And I've learned that it's not. I felt like it was a unique thing I was involved with. I mean, everybody's walk is unique, though. You know what I mean? So
hmm,
it's tough
yeah,
to
yeah,
figure that out, man. You just got to figure that out, and that's the hardest part, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, the balance is the thing.
Yeah,
Trying to
balance.
trying to balance everything out. Um, yeah. So you walk away from MMA, but then recently you dove into bare knuckle boxing. I actually had a which is crazy because it seems like I know you I know you got minimal padding on in MMA, but I mean you have no padding on your knuckles at all. It's easy to probably break fingers, break hands in the bare knuckle. I had one other bare knuckle guest on the show, Britton Hart, and she talked
Oh,
briefly about thing because I had her on shortly after the Paige Van Zant fight that she had,
oh
and
yeah,
but yeah, so what's that like? And
man.
what made you decide to jump into that way later in your career?
Well, to be honest with you, man, when I first started fighting MMA, it wasn't even called MMA. It was called NHB, no holds barred. And the gloves were very little, very tiny. You kind of brought your own sometimes. I fought in Japan. You didn't really wear gloves. You could
Mm,
still headbutt. Some of my fights in here in Indy, Indiana, you can knee to the head on the ground, you could headbutt, you can do all this stuff. So it was legitimately NHB, no holds barred. So that's where I come from. That's what I'm used to, and all the gloves and all the rules, all the no headbutts, all that stuff is cool. But if you talk to all the NHB guys, they prefer NHB. Everybody likes the less rules, the better. To be honest with you, if you're a true fighter, that's what you want. Now, they made rules. I get it. They had to, and I was all cool. I'm down with that. But then, I got older, and that's just what it was. Those were the rules. I retired, like I told you why. Now, after that, I get my kids. Two of my kids were out in college by that point. And then I remember I'm at the gym. I can't get away from the gym. So I'm still in the gym working out, training guys. And someone's at the gym, like, show me something on Facebook. Like, did you see this? I said, what is it? So one of your friends, Joe Riggs, he's doing a bare knuckle fight. I said, what the hell's wrong with Joe Riggs? He's doing bare knuckle fights in England. I said, let me see that. I started looking at it. I thought it was going to be in some warehouse with like bales of hay around. So I started watching. It's in a ring. It's like, oh. I watched about 2 rounds. And I remember I looked over at the guy and I was like, you think you could help get me into this? Because after I saw it, I was like, okay, this ain't what I thought, man. And it was just me being a fighter and like I'd done pro boxing, I'd done MMA, I'd done grabbing matches, all that stuff. I was like, I have to have this on my resume as a complete be a true like fighter, as a combative athlete. I got to try it. And I liked it. And when I saw it, it wasn't what I thought. I thought it was going to be 2 guys going in there and swinging wild punches. It was very measured, very calculated. So I was like, I got to at least try this one. So it's not legal here in the States at this point. So I start calling. I get a hold of somebody in England. They're like, hell yeah, we'll have you come fight here. So I went over to England and had a fight. And not too long, I came back to Indiana. I remember I met with the boxing commission and I tried to get bare knuckle legal. And I remember their quote at the end, after I talked to them for about an hour, they're like, Chris, Indiana's not going to be the first state to legalize anything. I said, all right, we're done. So I do nothing. Then about 3 months later, I got a phone call from somebody said, hey, we're putting on bare knuckle in Wyoming. Will you do it? I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And then I couldn't do it. My daughter's getting married that night. So they're like, all right, we'll put you on the second one. I was like, absolutely. So I fought in BKFC 2 down in Mississippi, and I loved it. And I was like, all right, I want to do it again. And then, but by this point, I'm like, I don't know, 45, 46, probably 45. So I'm like, man, and my only reason I was able to do it at all, really, I taught my family, my wife and them, and saying, look, this is bare knuckle. It's not the same. Like when I boxed, you go in there and you block, you take a lot of punches each round, even if you block those gloves. Bare knuckle, you can't do that. You can't block like this. It slips through and gets hit. So even my training for it was all about getting in and getting out and not getting hit. So it's more precise, less damage, even in training, which is most of the damage comes in training, really. You hit a lot more. So I was able to do a couple of fights. So it's like, I'm not going to get hit as much. I'm not going to take damage. I don't feel like I have any deficits from fighting, but man, I've been doing it for over 20 years. You got to at some point say, hey, man, I shouldn't be getting hit that much anymore. So I did a few fights and I told them when I got in there, I want to do some commentary for you guys. So now I've had 3 bare knuckle fights, and now I'm doing a commentary for BKFC with Sean Wheelock, and it's fantastic. I feel like I have enough actual competition and experience that I actually understand what's going on in there. And I do a lot of MMA, a lot of pro boxing. So I feel like I'm a unique guy who can go in and really give detailed input on 3 different, combative sports. One of them being the one that we're doing, which is bare knuckle.
Yeah, I've heavily got into watching bare knuckle recently. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just super entertaining to me.
Oh,
Yeah, I love it, man.
man.
I think I watch more bare knuckle now recently than UFC and MMA, to be honest.
Man, I mean, dude, my heart it definitely UFC. I love. I'm so proud of the fact that I've been there and helped grow that. But man, I love bare knuckle. It's so much fun to be at, so much fun to watch, so entertaining. And what I keep telling people is, man, bare knuckle reminds me of early days UFC in the sense that those guys just come to fight. It's not about the big money or the titles or trying. How many fights you see when it gets like a UFC title elimination for the UFC? Are they boring fights? Like every time, they're not good fights because like I got to win. They're boring. Somebody tries to outpoint a guy, get a takedown. Very rarely are they good fights. And a lot of fights turn like that main event. You might see, these guys are great. Yeah, but they ain't going to put on a good fight. Bare knuckle people still try and come knock each other's head off, and it's great. And sometimes, I mean, we've had twice now that I've been doing it. Where no, I think three times where the whole night's knockouts. Not one fight goes the distance. You
Yeah.
ain't never getting that in UFC. I mean, so it's just super entertaining. People still come to fight. It's not an athletic contest. It's a fight. That's a
Yeah.
fight. You know, in boxing, MMA, in my opinion, it's kind of it's too. It not mainstream's the right word, but there's too much on the line. People are all about winning at all costs. It's not more, like I said, American as opposed to the Japanese style of people coming and fighting. And bare knuckle still has that right now. So I love it. And that's why I keep telling people enjoy this, because in 15 years, it probably won't be like this. You know what I mean? Let's just enjoy while the ride lasts.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of boxing real quick, you were in I mean you actually have a great boxing record too. I think you only lose one fight? One boxing
Mm-hmm.
fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my I used to be heavy into boxing back in um I mean I'm 39. I was heavy into boxing early, like young. So like the Tyson era. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was going I remember going to boxing parties at houses that my mom's friends back in the day. I can remember all that stuff. And then I think the last pay-per-view boxing fight that I ordered, and this is and I don't you being in the boxing where I don't know if you can talk or elaborate on any of this happened. I don't really know how it is personally because I've never been a boxer, but I watched Sugar Shane Mosley because I was a big Mosley fan
Yeah.
versus Mayweather. And
Yeah.
I can remember watching that fight, and it's the last fight I ever ordered because of this. And it's like I watched Mosley whoop Mayweather's ass for 4 rounds straight and then not do anything. And I could just remember thinking, what happened? Is that is that is there something rigged going on? Because he was whooping Mayweather's ass. And I'm like, is that, do you think that I mean, is that a thing when you're up in that high, people are looking at you? You think there's the rigging things going on, or are people
Man,
still,
in my opinion, I mean, I would, when there's that much money involved, I wouldn't put anything past anybody. But in my opinion, I think Floyd Mayweather, even though he's a very great boxer, I think the best thing he ever does is he picks his opponents well at the right time. You know, and I don't think I ever remember seeing him fight anybody in their prime. He fought him before their prime or way
Mhm.
after their prime. And I think that was the same with Mosley. Well, I did love the fact Mosley hurt him once, I think in the second round. And you don't see Floyd get hurt, but he hurt him. I was like, oh, I was so happy. I was like, knock his ass out, because I've never liked Floyd. I don't like the way he fights. I don't like the way he
Yeah,
acts,
me
anything
neither.
about him really. Um, but I think Sugar Shane was past his prime, and he went out there and he basically blew his wad early, and he went out there and gave it everything. And Floyd is, say what you will about him, he's a smart fighter. He just like when he fought Connor, he threw 6 punches the first round, 6 punches the second round. He wore him out, and after that, the fight was over. I mean, Connor had no chance. He's not gonna. He's been in a fight where he's never boxed a match in his life. You can't go 10 rounds, 12 rounds and beat a guy. So Floyd did the same thing. He just wore Sugar Shane out. I mean, people don't realize that's tiring, especially you go out there. It's like a baseball pitcher. You can't throw fastballs all the time. You throw all these hard punches and you keep your hands in the right place and you do
Hmm.
this and you move the right way. That takes energy. Some fighters are lazier. I don't say lazy. They conserve their energy better and they wait till the right time to move stuff. When you're going to get Floyd, like it's like a video game and you hold down the A button the whole time. That energy just zaps. And if you don't hit B a couple of times, it doesn't, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and Sugar Shane just held down on A trying to knock him out, and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? If you knock him out, it works. But that's a gamble he took, and it didn't work. So then he's done. You know what I mean? And it's easy until the guy's in front of you can't hit, and he's slick and he's moving. It makes a difference. So, in my opinion, that's what happened there. He held the A button too long, and just he was older. He wasn't as. It just takes a little bit of getting out. It's not being in the right shape. You can't recover as well. And in my opinion, that's what happened in that fight. He just wasn't in his prime anymore. And that's why
Yeah.
Floyd took the fight. He's not fighting guys in the prime really
Yeah.
ever. Never did.
Yep. I always felt that way.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because it's the
Yep.
truth.
Yep. Random. What do you think about this new organization and the fights that they hold? The I don't know if you've watched any of
Triller.
the Triller.
Tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of love it in a way. It's bringing back some people I like. The people with a great name and a great reputation. I like the fact. I mean, like when they did the Holyfield thing, I didn't like that. He's too far past his prime. And the Mike Tyson Roy Jones thing. I mean, when they were asking me all about that, who's going to win? Who's going to win? I said nobody's going to win. It's going to be a draw because they're not trying to hurt each other. You guys don't get it. This isn't a fight. This is a sparring match between buddies who don't want to get hurt anymore, but they want to make some money. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
I guarantee, because what's Roy's, if Mike Tyson wants to hit Roy as hard as he can, he's gonna knock him out. I mean, Roy's chin is gone, but he can go out there and hit him to the heart of the body, or not even that hard. He can go out there and, man, I can go out there and make it look really good, like I'm trying to kill this guy, but I'm not. In my opinion, that was what was going to happen all day, every day. People still got to go out there and see those guys fight, and it was a good, entertaining fight. Um, and if you get to see some guys out there who you like and go these like farewell tours, I think it's a great thing, man. These guys can actually get paid to go out there and do that. And some people, like, now that was just that fight. Now they're turning into some real fights, which is good. Um, I just hope nobody, the Holyfield thing, I didn't like. I don't want to see people who shouldn't be out there getting hit. That's not good.
yeah. Belter hasn't even been not fighting that long. Um,
I mean, he was supposed to fight Oscar De La Hoya,
yeah,
which was a
yeah, yeah.
joke to begin with, because I was like, man, that's not a. I mean, at one point, somebody brought, they got a hold of me and talked to me about fighting Oscar. I was so excited. I said, I will beat that crazy dude's ass. I cannot wait to fight Oscar. I was like, that cocaine sniffing, come on, bring it. And then when I saw they're doing Vito, I'm like, dude, he's not even near your weight. He's too big for. I'm like, what are they doing, man? I'm like, they're trying to get him killed. And then when he allegedly got COVID, whatever, I think maybe he came out of his cocaine binge, was like, I'm fighting this guy, no way. I'm not doing this. I hope that's what happened, because I was like, you're gonna get killed. So at least get somebody halfway your size, more like me or something. But when that didn't happen, and then they had to throw somebody in there, a big name. I was like, who they gonna get at the last second? And I was like, Holyfield. Oh my god, dude, he's old. I mean, you can't be 60 and fighting, man. It's not good. So, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
happened. And they saw what happened.
Uh, just to briefly talk again on that organization, um, the Woodley fight recently. That do you think that after something like that happens to Tyron Woodley, that we need to take Jake Paul seriously as a fighter?
I mean, in a way, here's the thing, though. I mean, Woodley's got a little bit of that, or not Woodley, I should say. Jake Paul's got a little bit of that, Floyd Mayweather going on right now. Think he boxed Ben Askren. Okay, Ben's great, but he's not a boxer. He's a
No, he's a
straight
wrestler.
wrestler.
Yeah,
And then you fight Woodley, and Woodley hadn't won a fight in 5 years, or his last 6 fights, and he's 0-6. And I mean, for a while, Woodley was very dangerous, but really, since about he beat Lawler, right around after that, he maybe won one more fight. But something happened to Woodley that I've seen happen to a lot of fighters, and it's weird. The older they get, all of a sudden you get these guys who are in great shape, and they're in there, and they look the part, and they get in position, they can't pull the trigger, and that's been Woodley to me. I mean, he just doesn't. He doesn't throw punches like he should, as many. They can't pull the trigger. Like they'll get in position, they might throw a jab or two or a hook here, but like they don't throw combos. They can't. I don't know what it is, but something mentally they do not pull the trigger, and that's where Woodley's been UFC and everything for probably the last 5 fights. And I keep like, man, I mean, he has the power. He's athletic, and he can. I'm sure he trains hard, but I mean, that just happens to a lot of fighters. And once it happens, I've never seen it go back the other way. Like I've never seen a guy not be able to pull the trigger in the next fight he does. It doesn't happen. So I don't know if
yeah,
those neurons aren't quite firing the right way, or their hand eyes not quite there. Something's there, and I've seen it with many, many boxers. And I saw it with Tyron Woodley a couple fights ago. In the UFC still, and I didn't expect it to get better here, and it didn't. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
yeah.
I mean, that being said, though, I mean, you got, Jake and Logan Paul are both, the thing I didn't realize about them, they're good high level, like high school, like big high school wrestlers. And you're in Ohio and you're state level wrestler, you're an athlete. You're an athlete, and you're hard nosed and you're tough. So they got that going for them, and they got all the money in the world. I think they could be legitimate boxers. I don't think they're going to be world champ level ever, but I mean, they're tough guys, man. And
Yeah,
they're going to be tough to deal with for anybody, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so let's take it way back once. Let me ask this. Let me ask. So you were a wrestler in high school. When do you think you found um passion behind wanting to be a fighter? Did you always have that competitive spirit? Was there some event that you remember early on growing up that made you be like, "Oh, this is something that maybe I can do," or did something just snap later on?
It wasn't necessarily for fighting, but it was just for anything, man. I was always ultra competitive as a kid, just growing up, like everything, I played every sport there was, and I loved them all. And then when I got involved with wrestling, in middle school, that was just it, man. It kind of took over my life. And I like the one-on-one sport where it's all how hard I want to work and how good I'm going to do. And I was dedicated as could be. And just a way of life. As wrestling has a way of taking over your life, just like fighting does. Only that's why they're so wrestlers are so good and so very similar. But I mean, you get done with basketball, you get done with football, baseball, practice, you're done. And you get done with wrestling practice, that's half your day. Then you got to go cut weight, think about it. It's constantly on your mind. You got to do more things to work out, burning off more calories. You can't eat that. It's constantly on your mind, always, no matter what. Um, so I think I've always had that kind of mentality going on, and just wanting to succeed has kind of dominated a big part of my life. Now, when I got done with wrestling, I did a little bit in college, but not the way I definitely felt some kind of a void. So, I was like, I want to do everything all the way. So, and which sucks when you go to a party and you're like, man, I gotta drink this beer as fast as humanly possible. You know what I mean? I mean, we got a keg and I gotta drink it. I mean, it's just that mindset, like go hard all the time. You know what I mean? Which can be very dangerous. Um, but then, very quickly after that, when I discovered, like fighting, like I remember the first time I saw the first UFC I ever watched was UFC 4. And I remember just like watching Hoist fights, Dan Severn, like, oh my God, what is happening here? But I didn't know any place that did it. There was no place around in Indianapolis. So probably January of 1998, maybe February, I found a place where they were doing some jujitsu. I went there and trained with them a few times. And the guy's like, man, you got a good ability. I got to send you to a place where they're doing fighting, like fights. And I was like, what? Like competing. They called it shoot fun. I was like, all right, I'll go there. And immediately I went there and I met up with a guy I used to wrestle with in high school. And he was training there. And I was like, we just fell right into it. And then I was just like going there like twice a day. I was like, man, it gave me that competitive edge back. That's something I've been missing for years that I was looking for, and getting in, going all in on bad things. All of a sudden I can go all in on good things, and making me not go
Yeah.
out and party and not go out and drink and focus. I mean, once again, I had that 100, like I'm all in or all out no matter what I do. And that I found something to go all in on again. And, um, that was how I kind of started getting into it. And I remember I went to my first set of fights they put on. As soon as I watched it like live, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. This is definitely what I want to do. And it's different back then, but I knew right away. I didn't care about, it wasn't even about money. It's just something to do. I just loved the idea of doing it. And
Yeah.
if people got involved back then, you didn't do it for money. That's why I loved it back then. It was true fighters. Everybody there's a true fighter. Who, if you're gonna fight for nothing, you're a true fighter. These people, like, now, I'm not fighting unless I get this, and that. I'm like, man, cool. I mean, I get it, but you're smarter than me about that. But it's just not, might not be who you are. You might be good at it, but you can just see the guys who just love to do it because they love to do it.
Hmm.
And I like to watch those guys.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. What's a what's a Chris what's a Chris Lytle music playlist like for a workout?
Man. Um,
What's some of your favorite tunes?
man, I like if I'm working out, it's gonna be something kind of probably a little more like 90s or 2000, but kind of definitely heavy, upbeat type thing, Disturbed or something like that. You know what I mean? Or I don't know. I got a lot of things that just things with kind of get me going like that. Kind of
Yeah.
upbeat type songs. I don't know. I like a lot of. I do like a lot of classic rock too, like stuff from the '60s, '70s,
Oh,
old school
okay.
stuff. I like that kind of music a lot as well. So just depends on what kind of mood I'm in at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, is there any dream fights in the UFC that maybe you wanted to have that didn't happen?
Yeah, I always really wanted to fight George St. Pierre just because I felt like I remember he was on the reality show. He kind of worked out with us some, and I was like, man, I like the way we matched up. And in my opinion, for many, he's like the gold standard, the best. And I always wanted to fight the best. I always wanted to see how I stacked up. And now I remember I was very disappointed. I lost that split decision to Matt Serra in the Ultimate Fighter finals, and then he knocked him out in the first round. The next fight, I was like, damn, it'd been nice to get
Yeah.
that fight.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one I always wanted. I know when me and Thiago Alves fought, I got cut open. They stopped it after the second round. It was tied 1 round apiece, and that was a fight of the night. But I was always like, right afterwards, I was like, we're gonna do a rematch, and they were like, yep, yep, yep. And then he won like 4 in a row, got a title fight. So he never wanted to fight me then because it's like, man, I can't. He knew it was a tough fight. He's like, why fight that fight again? I would have beat him, and now so I know that's why that didn't happen because he was like on a title run. I was like, damn. So I never got that fight again. I always want to do that one again.
Yeah. That would have been good. I actually think I remember watching that fight
Yeah,
when the
that's a fun one,
stoppage.
man. Yeah, I was really disappointed because I felt like I was landing good punches on his face. He was landing a lot of good kicks on my leg. I think the very first punch in the fight he threw cut me open, and after the first, like it was bleeding in the first round, then that was it in the second round. They ended up stopping at the end of the second round. Like, it's not even bleeding anymore. They're like, yeah, but it's on the eyelid now. Like, ugh. But you can't. After the doctor says something, man, they not change their mind. I've learned, so it is what it is.
Yeah, did it feel good to get that Matt Sarah rematch win?
I mean, in a way, not in a way, not really, because first of all, Matt's one of my favorite guys in the world. He's a great guy, and I never really wanted to fight him again. First of all, because the first fight was terrible. I mean, it wasn't entertaining. That was exactly what I talked about. That was the last fight I ever fought where I was like, I just want to win. I don't care what happens. I don't care how entertaining it was. And after I lost that split decision, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to try and win a decision no matter what, because if you don't win, then it feels even worse. You didn't go out and fight your way in. There was nothing positive about it. So I lost that split decision. It was very painful, but just winning that one even made me think like, well, damn, if I'd have won that before, if I'd have fought like this, maybe I win, the title. And there wasn't any really positives into it. I fought a friend of mine, I beat him. Only cool thing was I got to fight at my hometown. But I didn't really want to fight a good friend of mine. It didn't really do much for me, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Someone aspiring, growing up that wants to be in MMA or boxing, what's something that you would tell them to focus on when going in that direction?
Sure. I mean, I would say focus. The main thing you got to focus on is your weakness, man. I mean, everybody wants to go in there like, I'm a good kickboxer. I'm going to kickbox all the time. They go towards with their strength, which is a problem, because no matter what in the sport of MMA, they're going to take you to your weakness. They're going to take you to where you're not good. You have to be good everywhere. So that's what one thing I think I did right away was I was always put myself in bad positions. I start on the ground, take my back, and just let people try and choke me and work on getting out of every position. Just really work on your weaknesses instead of your strengths. You got to work, but you got to work on everything. Recommend that don't take any breaks. I never took breaks. I mean, you cannot go in there. That's the right thing. Like Connor tries to come back, and you can't go do things for 9 months and go train for 2 and think you're going to beat these guys. The game evolves too much. You got to be in there going in, day out. It's got to be your life. Just like Poirier. I mean, Poirier all of a sudden comes in throwing those calf kicks and kind of like, oh, what the hell? Like, I haven't seen this. No, you haven't seen it because you ain't been around. You're a part-time fighter now. You got to be in there day in, day out, living the grind. And the grind is the hard part. We're there, and it's not beautiful, and it's not fun, and it's not all the glitz and glory that you think it is. And in the parties, that ain't there, man. It's the grind to get to there, maybe, and that's what Connor's experienced on the fun part. But your fight career is done now. So get in there, enjoy the grind. You have to love it. You have to make that what you want to be part of, and the other stuff comes. That's cool. But get in there and love your craft. You can't fight because you like the end product. You have to like the journey, and the journey is the fun part, and that is where the real glory is, and that's the good part. But it's tough. That's the toughest part. If you
Yeah.
can't love that, you better be really athletic, and you better be really talented. That I'm not. So you have to have a lot of attributes of that to love that grind. Everything, and go out and embrace it.
Yeah, man.
Did we kick off? God dang.
Did it? I don't think it kicked.
Dang.
I think
Back?
it's. Yeah,
Okay.
there
I
you
thought
are.
you
There
went
you are.
away
Okay.
again.
Yeah, it randomly
Okay.
froze up for a second, but
Can you hear me? Come on, man.
yeah. Hello. Can you hear me, Chris? Oh man, what is up
Yeah.
with? Ten-
Can you
yeah.
hear me?
Yep. I hear you.
Can you hear me there? I can hear you now.
Yeah. Are we good? I
Yeah, I
think
can
we're
hear
good.
you now. You went away for a sec.
All right. All right. Yes. And we're getting ready to wrap anyway. But yeah. One of the last things, man. Now this whole freeze thing messed up where my
Yeah.
mind was at, man.
It happens.
um. Yeah. Oh. Here we go. So to end it out, I was basically just gonna ask. I mean, so is Chris Lytle done with fighting, or like are you just commentating, or I mean you're three and oh bare knuckle man. I mean, are you?
Man, it's funny. I tried to I thought about doing another bare knuckle fight, but I tried to go to the gym and like really go hard for a couple of days. And I'm great for a day. I can hang with anybody. Working. I feel good. The next day, I get up. I'm kind of sore. I go in the next day. That's not that great. And then the third day, it's like, man, I can't train hard every day like I used to. Now maybe how these people are training smarter now. They know how to go in there and work like this, go hard 2 days. I don't know how to do that, man. I'm just go in and go hard every day, and that's it. So I'm gonna have to say no. I'm probably done right now. You never know, man. There's always an opportunity, or if the money's right and they gave me the right opponent who's like a guy around 40, maybe something. But as for now, man, unless some perfect opportunity, unless the stars line up, probably not.
Yeah, but I mean you have an amazing fighting career. You've definitely probably inspired a lot of young fighters. You've inspired
Thank
a
you.
lot of fighters.
But
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. But that's the thing is it ain't about as a fighter. I mean, like I want to do fights if people are watching, or if people say if you get a guy who's like, hey Chris, we're gonna have a fight in this warehouse in a certain, you're gonna give me this opponent. I might do it. You know what I mean? Just because I like to challenge myself. It's not
yeah,
about what other people see. I'm not doing it for this and that. It's like
hmm
I remember at one point, Chael Sonnen for that submission underground one, he's like, hey, I got an opportunity for you. No pay, but you're going to go against Jake Shields. And I was like, all right, how can I pass up the opportunity to go with Jake Shields? He's probably one of the best MMA grapplers in the world. I mean, he was like, really? I was like, yeah, for no pay. It's like, I did for that for free just to get in there and go with him because I wanted to see how good I was against him. You know what I mean? So that's what kind of motivates me, just like you're talking about the passion here. Like I have a passion for doing this stuff. The old
yeah,
school guys all do, or they wouldn't have done it to begin with. You didn't get paid much to do it. So you're stupid if you did it for money, then you are bad at math or something. So I would still do it possibly if the right situation popped up, I would do something. But if it doesn't, man, I mean, it's hard to make all the things work out.
yeah. But I mean, you're still. I mean, you're doing the commentating now,
Yep.
right? For bare knuckles, so that's
Yep.
dope.
It's awesome.
Um, yeah. So, how about we just leave people with how can people follow Chris Lytle social media? Like
Okay.
what are you on most actively to where people can follow what you're doing? And obviously they can hear
Yeah.
you commentate on bare knuckle, but
And Jamie, Chris Lights Out Lytle on Instagram, man. I mean, my Facebook, that's pretty much full. I always get people hit me up on that, but I do more like on Instagram. I'll talk to anybody right there who wants to get a hold of me. I love it. Yeah, follow me there. I got a new bourbon just out not long ago, Lights Out Bourbon. So I got an Instagram
mm,
page on that. So if anybody wants to, I love it. It's fun. I get to go out and do some tastings and sell some bourbon. People love it. So it's a lot of fun doing that too. So
oh yeah, that's super. I was actually unaware of that. Did you briefly before we
yeah.
cut ties, so something like that, do um you get to decide like what it tastes like and
Oh
everything? Like they
yeah. I
give
mean,
you all the
Of course, man. That's the only reason I'm not going to put my name and face on something I don't like. And that's what happened. A buddy of mine has a bar and, was a distributor and had some different things going on. And we're there drinking bourbon. He's like, hey, man, I can get your own label. And so I go to some places and start tasting different bourbons. And I was like, I do like this. I don't like this. This is kind of what I want. And came up with a thing and, went and picked out a barrel and, had our first batch and then sold it all immediately. I was like, oh, we got to get some more of this. So we got more barrels being brought. Like we've had a couple barrels and we sell it all immediately. So I'm just trying to work out my really, I don't know hardly anything about liquor, you know what I mean? So I'm learning liquor laws and how to do all that stuff. Like I thought I could, get a barrel of liquor and sell it. Oh no, you have to have, the distiller has to sell to the distributor has to sell it to the liquor store or a bar and they have to sell it to me. It's like all kinds of hoops I got to jump through. And there's a lot of red tape we got to get through. So right now I got it in Indiana, but I can't even get it in other states if I get a different distributor. There's all kinds of laws. So I'm trying to learn right now. It's very new into it. I've only been around for a few months, but there's been a lot of demand and people are really liking it when they get it. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, well, hopefully you have much success in that as well, man.
I'm going to work at it. That's all I promise.
Yeah, yeah. One more question before we part. I was curious. The lights out. Is that you or did somebody give you the nickname?
Oh, you can't give yourself a nickname. That's embarrassing now. So yeah, people give themselves a nickname. I make fun of this. So now it was my first pro boxing match. I'd already done MMA, and I remember I started going like I talked about wanting to work on weaknesses. I think it was more in 2002, I believe. 2001 or 2002. Now I started going to a boxing gym because some of the guys at my gym were going to a boxing. I mean, we just trained with good boxers in my other gym, but we're going to a straight boxing gym. It's like, oh, I'm going to go there. So I went there for about a month and I was training. And then the guy called me. He was like, hey, man, I know, would you be interested in doing a pro boxing match? Because I was an MMA guy then. I was like, sure, man, I'll do it. He's like, man, okay. They got a place up in Baraboo, Wisconsin, the Hotel Casino. I'm sure you're familiar with that area.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right by the Wisconsin Dells. And they're like, hey, got a fight next week. The guy fell off. And so driving up there, the guy's like, yeah, he just told me he's got a pro boxer. He's 2-0. He's I'm fighting an Indian on the Indian reservation. Like he had like 30 or 40 amateur fights and he's 2-0 in pro boxing. And he said, they just told me you got a tough guy you could bring up. And they go, yeah, I got a tough guy. He can't box. But he's like, all right, it's all right. So, I mean, I had a month of boxing, really. I'm like doing wrestling and kickboxing, MMA, but not boxing. So he said, so it's for Top Rank Boxing, legit organization. One of the guys, Pete Souza's a legit guy, big name guy. And he was there. He's like, said he saw me warm up. He's like, Keith, supposed to bring a guy who can fight. This guy doesn't look like he hit the pads very well. But I went out there and they started to whoop the dude's ass all 4 rounds. But, they called it a draw. I was fighting a guy on his reservation. So I got a draw. My first boxing match was a draw. And so I talked that Pete Souza out, the Top Rank boxing. The guy's like, man, you beat that guy. Those judges, you ain't going to beat a guy in his hometown. He's like, man, you hit really hard. I couldn't believe it. He's like, what's your name? I said, Chris Lytle. He's like, Lytle. Lytle said, I'm going to call you Lights Out Lytle because you're going to knock a bunch of people out. I'm going to give you some fights from now on. I was like, all right, cool. So he got me some fights after that. And my boxing career started, but I got it by a pretty high up guy in Top Rank Boxing, gave my nickname. No, it's also funny because I'm gonna call you Lights Out. He said James Toney doesn't need that name with it. He's done, because it was in a little period where James Toney was down. He just left middleweight before he got to cruiserweight, so he was like disappeared and he kept eating and gaining weight. But then he came back and really utilized that name because when he fought Vasily Zhov, he was a bad man, and I really liked watching it. But yeah, that's how I got the nickname, man. So it was great.
That's awesome, man. And that's a dope way to end this. It's been a lot of fun. I thank you, Chris, for coming on the podcast.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm your host, Tayamu Denku. This has been Pick Apart the Passion podcast, where it's best to pick apart yourself to get to your passion. Shouts out to my dude, Rambunctious, who is the creator of Pick Apart the Passion podcast. We'll leave you with this quote that was said by his father. Is it better to be right or kind? And Chris, has been awesome. I appreciate you being on the podcast. And maybe I'll see you in another random bare knuckle at some point in time. But
hey, man.
if not, it's been awesome watching your fight career. And you've definitely done some awesome things, man.
Appreciate it, my man. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, hopefully we'll be up in the Milwaukee area putting on some bare knuckle fights here at some point. I also do something with something called the B2 Fight Series, and we're all over the place. I think we'll be up in Wisconsin at some point. I know we're Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, geez, Nebraska, we're all over the place. So hopefully we'll be up in Wisconsin here sometime soon.
All right, man. Well, let me know. I'll let you know where to go for lunch or dinner. You know what I'm saying?
I love it there, man. That's one of my places. I like Milwaukee. It's great.
All right, man. You have a good night.
Take care, Bubby.